Welcome back to Reliving Retro. This is Season 3, Episode 3. We talked about Star Fox Adventures, and we have a very special guest on with us. Go ahead and introduce yourself, man.
Hey guys, it's Frank Alvarez from Basement Yard Podcast, Santa Gata Studios, all that goodness, and hopefully one day one of Rig's Beer Olympics. That would be pretty fun.
Fuck yeah.
Yes, sir.
Well, thanks for having me, guys. I know it was a bit of a pulling teeth getting me over here because I'm awful with messaging and stuff like that, but I do appreciate your patience and getting me on.
Hey, man. I mean, what's a year and a half of my life, you know? I'm just kidding. No, it's a great time. I'm super happy to have you on, of course. And we're going to do some getting to know you questions, right? Because I don't know how often. I know you stream on Twitch, right?
I haven't in a little bit. It's been particularly tough with the young ones and stuff like that. But my plan is to get back there. I guess I'm trying to get back there as soon as possible. So hopefully I'll be making a full-time return soon.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Cool.
But we ask a couple getting to know you questions about kind of like your gaming history and how you grew up with gaming and stuff like that. So first question is, what would you say your introduction to gaming was? Maybe your first console, how old you are, like how you got it, that kind of thing.
Okay, yeah. Believe it or not, I talk about my dad a lot on our show. My dad is like a, old school fucking Colombian, like wise guy, that used to like, do stupid shit as a kid. And believe it or not, when I was really, really young, he played video games. He had an NES. And the first video game I ever played was with my dad. And it's so funny because we had a bunch of stuff. My dad had, Super Mario 1, 2, and 3, 1942, stuff like that on the NES.
Yep.
But the first game that I wanted to play with him was the NES Ghostbusters, which
nice.
is famously an awful video game.
Yeah. A lot of people say it's not great.
It's not. But I was such a fan of the movie as a kid, and I saw the game and I was like, yeah, Dad, let's play this. So that was my real introduction. And then, just kind of normal, like Super Nintendo, Nintendo 64, PlayStation kind of normally progressed as I got older.
Awesome. And do you have any consoles now, or do you play like PC games or?
Yeah, I have so I have all the current generation stuff, Series X, PS5, Switch, and then I have a bunch of retro stuff. I have all the Nintendo consoles.
Cool.
Awesome.
Through original PlayStation. I still work at piecing together my collection, but my thing is I don't really care about having collecting everything. I just kind of want to have what I had as a kid so I can pass down to my kids and they can enjoy it.
Yeah, that's
and then if they
huge.
want to broaden their horizons more, that's on them.
Yeah, that's totally fair.
I mean, you guys have kids. It's hard to really get the chance to play video games now. So I'm really, really right now. I went through a big MLB The Show phase. I was playing MLB pretty religiously, from April until maybe about 3 weeks ago. And then I kicked up my replay of 2018's God of War in preparation for God of War Ragnarok, which comes out in a couple weeks.
See, that's another franchise that I haven't really gotten into. I can't wait to go back and play some of the originals on the PS2 because I've heard that they're really, really good.
Yeah, I only played the first one. It was fucking pretty dope.
Yeah. It's so tough because I mean, I when you had asked me kind of what we should, what game we should do and stuff like that, I kind of wanted to do that one, but I don't know, man. That's such a. I feel like that deserves like a full playthrough before you really sit down and talk about it because of everything involved. But I wasn't a big fan of the original 3.
Oh, really?
I wasn't at all. They were a little kind of one-trick ponies. Super just glorified beat 'em ups with a cool story.
Yeah.
And then this one came out and it completely reshaped my love for video games. I couldn't believe how enthralled I was.
Nice. No, it's awesome. What would you say some of your favorite games to play are now, like your favorite genres?
Ooh, I have to say, open world action adventure. Oddly enough, we're kind of talking about one today. open world action adventure with my son. Him and I play a lot of, kind of like I wouldn't say child games, but like Super Mario and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
Platformers, and that's really it. Unfortunately, I don't get the chance to play as much as I, used to. So
Right.
I really just try to, sit down and enjoy whatever I can when I get the chance.
Yeah.
Cool,
no,
man.
Yeah. So this week we played Star Fox Adventures for the GameCube. It's our first actual like GameCube game that we've been able to play. I guess technically SSX Tricky, right, is a multi-platform.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
God, that
Yeah.
game is so good.
I was gonna say bring back some memories for you.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Would you guys agree that the GameCube like console, I don't know what you would call it, like the console intro with the fucking block that rolls
Mhm.
around and
Yeah.
that's the best one, right? Of all the consoles.
It is really good, and it's cool because there's like a secret one you can do too, where it plays like some Japanese sounds.
Yeah, you gotta hold like
Yeah, there's a
certain
couple
buttons.
different. If you hold down different buttons,
Yeah.
it'll be like a squeaky one. It'll be one where it's like kids
Right.
laughing or something like that, which is kind of creepy. But
A little bit.
no, yeah, I'm with you there. But all those old ones are so nostalgic.
Yeah.
Like the original PlayStation with
Yeah,
the white
PS1
screen.
for sure.
Yep.
I kind of miss stuff like that.
Even the OG
Mhm.
Xbox I liked a lot.
Mm.
Like that one was cool because I
Oh,
remember
yeah,
like when
yeah.
I got the Xbox, I think it was like the first of my friends to get an Xbox, and so it just seemed like, I don't know, the pinnacle of the technology at the time. So when that like loading screen came up, I was like, yo, this thing is awesome.
Yeah, and it
Yeah.
looked sweet. Like it was like that like bubbling green, and it was like whoop,
Yeah.
whoop, whoop,
Yep.
whoop. It was like, oh,
Black
shit.
and green is such a cool combo too
is.
that it looks so cool.
It is.
Yeah, so we played Star Fox Adventures this week, and a little bit of background info on the game, I guess, was this wasn't originally intended to be a Star Fox game. This game was originally called Dinosaur Planet, and it was being developed for the N64. And then so development ended up getting pushed when Nintendo realized that they had a fox as the main character. And they were like, you know what? Why don't you just use Star Fox? Why don't you just do that? So I think that this game gets a ton of pushback, I guess, from Star Fox fans because it's not really a Star Fox game technically, because in like Star Fox 64 in the original Star Fox, you're in the R wing like 100% of the game. In this game, you're in it like 2% of the game.
I think that even that's generous.
Yeah, you're in it very little. So this game gets a ton of critics because of that fact. But for me and Yaiser, we've never really played a Star Fox game before. So to us, this is a Star Fox game.
So I guess
like what?
in you said you hadn't played Star Fox games before, but seeing what the games were before this, did you appreciate like the rail shooter aspect of it, or I guess where did you guys fall on it?
So, I mean, just for me, I had tried to play the original Star Fox and Star Fox 64 a little bit, but I wouldn't really say that I gave it a fair shot. I probably played them for like 15 minutes or so and was just like, it's whatever.
Yeah.
Not a huge fan of rail shooters. My favorite on-rail shooter, and this may be a hot take, is Pokemon Snap. I don't know if you consider that. It's kind of an on-rail shooter.
Absolutely.
I guess so.
So
shooting shit with your camera.
Yeah, I mean it's an on-rail shooter in a certain aspect, but yeah, I was never really a huge fan of like Star Fox enough to give it a fair shake, I guess. But this is really the first one I sat down and played for like multiple hours. What about you, Yaiser? You?
Yeah, exactly the same. I think I played Star Fox 64 for maybe, like you said, 10-15 minutes. It might even have been on a demo on a fucking, what do you call them, kiosk?
Oh right, yeah, those
it
kiosks.
might even have been on that. But yeah, like you said, it's the first one I really sat down and actually gave some time to.
Yeah. But yeah, I just thought it was pretty interesting. You could kind of tell that some of these things were just like Star Fox was kind of just shoehorned into this game at certain aspects. Crystal, I guess, like the character you start off as playing. I guess we can kind of make our way into story here. But you start off with playing as a character named Crystal, and you land on Dinosaur Planet, right? That's the name of the planet that you land on.
Well, no, I think she goes to a separate spot Dinosaur Planet is where Fox goes. Which
yeah.
In the later games they had retconned and called it something else, but she lands on like kind of like a it's like some sort of temple area
like
where there's all those statues.
It's like Croza Palace or something like that.
Krazoa.
Something like that.
Krazoa, that's what it
Palace,
is. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, so you start off playing as Crystal, and right from right from the get-go, I was kind of like, oh man, like the gameplay is just pick up barrels and throw barrels, and I kind of like that's not great, I guess. But then I was like, okay, cool, Star Fox is back, and like then we start to be Star Fox, and then you get that awesome. I actually really liked the R-wing scenes in this game, or like the R-wing levels, I guess you could call them, in this game. I thought that they were a lot of fun, even though they were super short. However, like, what did you guys think of the story? Do you want, Yaiser, you want to just give your opinion on the story?
I guess so. It seemed, I don't really know it very like in depth, I guess, but it seemed a little simple, I guess you would say. You know, there's a bad guy and he's got his clan, and you're joining up with the good guys to help their clan beat the bad clan, is how it seemed to me. But I didn't get far enough to really get any more in depth than that, I guess.
Yeah, so the clan is basically like Sharp Claws. That's what they're called, and they're run by General Scales, which I don't know how you guys feel about the voice acting in this game, but I think it's hilarious that they do like all like gibberish kind of, and then it's like General Scales. I started dying at that part. I'm like, you guys couldn't think of like a made up word for General Scales. You just had to throw in General Scales. They knew that part of English.
Yeah. And then, I mean, I know we'll get into it when we talk more about like sound and stuff. Or at least that's where I put, voice acting. But
yeah, for sure.
The voice acting for the game is all over the place. It is like you're kind of like thrust into it, where it's like, I believe Crystal is the first person to speak, and she's like, she's speaking another language, a fictitious language in the game, but it's just like, it's so jarring because you're playing a Star Fox game, and you guys didn't play the Star Fox games prior to this, so or you hadn't at least played much, excuse me. So it's not nearly as jarring for you, I guess, and in that regard, this game, and this will be, something that I kind of touch upon in each of the categories. This game is such an anomaly because it is built well by a very respected, at the time, very respected developer in Rare. But there's just something about it that just kind of prevents it from just breaking through that glass ceiling and making it great. And I don't know if it's because of the Star Fox, edition, or if that has nothing to do with it. But the story's pretty generic. I mean, this game could have been called Dinosaur Planet compared to Star Fox Adventures, and it wouldn't have made a difference. It's you go on it's kind of Guardians of the Galaxy-esque. They need some money, they go and they listen to a distress call, and they try to do what they can. They don't want to be there. And Fox is pretty adamant during the game, and he's like, I don't want to do this. So
it did kind of remind me of Guardians of the Galaxy now that you mentioned that.
A little bit, right? I mean, you got a fox, close enough to a raccoon, right?
Yeah, for sure. So Frank, what did you rate the story?
So overall, out of 5, I felt that the story was pretty generic, and but something that kind of saved it for me was, I won't spoil anything, but there's a pretty cool end scene twist that you may have seen coming, you may not have seen coming. It may land well for you if you if you know the games and stuff like that. So I said 3 out of 5. I thought it was just above average.
You can spoil it if you want. Our show is full spoilers. These games are 90 years old.
Well, in all the previous Star Fox games, the main villain is Andros, who's like this like monkey with a big head. I think it was like the lore says he was like Fox's dad's friend until he betrayed him or something like that. But I felt that the twist was cool enough. I remember the end, seeing that and being like, oh shit. So I felt it was just above average. I put it at a 3.5, 3 out of 5, excuse me.
Yeah, and I'm kind of right there with you. I did know that Andros comes in at the end. I don't know like the actual story aspect of what the twist is.
It's literally just I wanted you to it's the Shadow of the Colossus type thing where it's like the bad guy, you were working for the bad guy the whole time,
Okay.
you
Oh,
know, and
That's
now
cool.
you have to defeat the bad guy. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. So I ended up giving it a 2.5 because I did feel like it was pretty average. And I think that I think one thing that kind of hurts the story for me is just the fact that they do have like the fictitious language, because that means I gotta read, and that's unfortunate. You know what I
That's
mean?
funny.
Like I like doing as little reading as possible.
Yeah.
And for the first like 30-40 minutes of this, game, you got to do a little bit of reading to kind of grasp the story.
Yeah, a little
Fair.
bit.
So yeah, so I gave it a 2.5 because it made me read. What about you, Yaiser?
I wasn't even sure. I thought maybe I had downloaded like the wrong version. Like,
Oh, really?
yeah. So I looked up like the beginning scene on like YouTube to make sure that they were speaking a made up language, that my phone
Yeah.
wasn't fucked up or had the wrong version. But yeah, I gave it a 3. I gave it a 3 as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So we're all right around the same
cool.
Yeah, it's not bad at all.
same area.
All right, Yaiser, why don't you kick off gameplay?
Gameplay. I thought the gameplay was pretty cool. So unfortunately, I played this on my phone, and Dolphin doesn't work that great for Android yet, I guess.
Gotcha.
So it's pretty stuttery, and like the game's like slowed down a lot sometimes. So maybe it could have been higher probably if I played it on my PC and it was a little bit smoother. Or
Yeah, I
if
was gonna say I played it on my PC and it ran pretty
or if
good.
I played original hardware even probably, but I gave it 3.5. Some of the I guess the combat felt like smooth and like pretty good, but it was basically just spam A or dodge. You know what I mean? And but I thought the idea of having your staff and like progressing through the game and being able to level up your staff and get new
Attacks.
abilities and stuff.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, there were a couple of things that I don't know. I think I'm gonna mostly blame it on the emulator for Android, but
It's fair.
I did think it was, it was 3.5. I don't think it's a bad score. So
No, I mean, I don't think it's a bad score.
yeah.
I gave it a 3, and the only reason why I had it at 3.5, I ended up giving it a 3 as soon as I got to that little escort mission where you got to walk that little dinosaur around, and when have those ever been fun? Yeah, tricky, right? Yeah, when have those ever been fun? Nobody likes an escort mission, and so those are kind of annoying. To be fair, though, my biggest gripe with the game was how simple the combat was. You guys are kind of touched on it a little bit.
Yeah.
It's basically spam A. However, I did like how they use the C stick, how it's kind of like a manage your inventory thing. I thought that was a pretty cool way to use the C stick. And I thought that the controls during the R-Wing flying, I thought that felt really good.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I didn't think the gameplay was bad by any means. I had to dock it a little bit there for being a little oversimplified, I think. What about you, Frank?
Fair.
I hate sounding like a broken record, but I played this game when it came out. I was 10 years old when it came out. I was in love with this game when it came out. So I kind of revert back and remember, the enjoyment that I had when I played it. And at the time, and still to this day, the combat's pretty smooth. Say what you want about it.
Yeah.
For a game that came out, almost exactly 20 years ago. The staff play is smooth. The C stick for the inventory was kind of innovative at the time. The GameCube was really kind of messing around with how they were going to use the C stick. I felt like this was a good way to use it. It played well. Yes, it was simple, but I think it's simple in terms of wearing our rose-colored glasses or rose-tinted glasses, looking back on it. At the time, we were coming straight from the biggest third-person action adventure game before this was Ocarina of Time.
True.
And compared to that, I mean, I'm not going to compare the two games because one is a literal masterpiece, but the combat is arguably a little smoother and it feels a little better with the staff. But there is a part of this game where the difficulty meter spikes up rapidly. And there are some challenges and mini games and puzzles that are quite frankly like head scratchingly hard, especially for a child. Like, I know it's not a kid's game per se, but like if you think about
it's geared more towards younger kids.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Not 7-year-olds necessarily, but like teenagers or young teens or whatever. Yeah.
I remember there's one specific part of the game where you have to literally just mash A, and you're kind of in like a push pull type mini game where you have to kind of be stronger than the other dinosaur.
Mhm.
And as a kid, I legitimately had to put the game down, and I didn't play it for like 2 months because I couldn't beat it. And it kind of takes away from it a little bit because it shows that there are some inconsistencies and it's not polished well. And then there's just other small stuff. Tricky is such an annoying character, so that escort mission, he's with you for the rest of the game, and he is borderline infuriating. So I still feel and felt that it was good and better than average, so I gave it another 3 out of 5.
Okay,
fair.
You said 3, right? Not 3.5.
Correct, 3 out of 5.
Okay, cool. And you had brought up that there were puzzles and stuff like that got harder later on in the game, which I think is actually probably good news in comparison to the first Spirit that you released, where it's like the easiest find the spirit in the barrel game that I think I've ever played. I was like, oh man, this is rough because it's like way too easy. Like these barrels are moving at like a snail's pace, and I'm pretty sure I could close my eyes and still kind of figure out which one's going to be which. So that was really easy. So I'm glad to hear that it actually like ramped up a little bit. And the race actually, when you save Tricky initially, that was actually a little hard.
Oh man, it took me probably 15 tries at least.
Yeah.
Those like speeder bikes are like impossible to, and the controls aren't great either. I mean, if we want to talk about when you do like the aiming, when you have to aim with the staff, those are a little rough because it kind of keeps pulling you back to the middle. And those speeder bike missions are not the greatest either.
Yeah, there were a couple parts where the controls were a little iffy, but honestly, like what you said, Frank, I 100% agree that the combat is actually really, really smooth. And it seems like you do that for a majority of the game. I didn't get super far, but it seems like that type of combat is what you do for the majority of the game, right? Yeah, so I mean as long as like that part's polished, I mean I can live with some other stuff. That's why I did not give this a below average rating in gameplay, because I felt like it was pretty solid. Moving over to visuals. Frank, I don't know if you want to start off visuals.
Sure. You mentioned it at the beginning. This game was developed originally for the Nintendo 64. And I think that fact in and of itself is the most mind-blowing thing for me, because for 2002, this game is beautiful. The GameCube was not known for its graphical power.
Not by any means, no.
But I remember, when you first land on that planet and you're kind of looking around, and although he's an annoying character, there's that big stone transporter guy, teleporter, whatever. It looks really, really good. And granted, though, it looks like a 2002 game, but it looked better than a lot of other 2002 games that came out that had kind of a similar art design, with the semi photorealistic. I thought it was, really well done. I don't remember and didn't experience a lot of, kind of like lag and, dropped frame rates when I was playing or anything like that. So I gave this
either.
I gave this a 4 out of 5.
Okay. Yeah. Very solid score. My first impression of it was just seeing Crystal on that like pterodactyl or whatever. I'm like, okay. I was like, I'm pretty impressed with the graphics so far. And then you get some close-ups of the characters, and you can actually see the texture of their fur.
Yeah.
Like see that it's soft fur. And I was like, oh wow, this is actually way more way more detailed than I thought it was going to be. And I agree with you, Frank. I think it's probably up there with one of the best looking GameCube games on the system in general. I mean, I wouldn't say I've played a vast like selection of the library or anything like that, but with the GameCube games I have played, this is definitely up there. Like this Star Fox looks 1,000 times better than the one in Smash Bros. And Melee. You know what I mean? It's obviously like a different type of like graphics, I guess, but I don't know. I was really impressed with the visuals in this game. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Very
what about
nice.
you, Yaiser?
I gave it a 4. Like you guys are saying, I think this is really where the game stands out. I think it really surprised me. Even playing on my fucking stupid little phone here, it looked incredible, like the textures and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you were saying, when you get the close-ups of the characters and you can like see their fucking fur. I don't know if I remember any games that are this old, like looking this good.
Right. And we've played a few N64 games. So Frank, like you said, like the fact that it was originally developed for the N64, it's amazing that they brought that blockhead type of, I mean, because we look at like Final Fantasy VII, right? That game was originally designed to be on the N64. And seeing how it didn't change a whole lot being imported from the N64 to the PS1, when we also have played some PS1 games that look way better than Final Fantasy VII does.
Yeah.
Just, I guess the transition that they were able to make from the N64 to the GameCube is amazing.
Yeah, it was definitely awesome.
Yeah, so that's definitely where this game shined, in my opinion, was the visuals. Heading over to sound, Yaiser, you want to kick it off?
Oh man, okay, I guess so. I didn't. So, oh man, this is tough because like, I think the voice acting was pretty good. I think.
Yeah.
Right? Don't you think so? The voices and all that.
I mean, there's
terrible.
There's somewhere I was just like, okay,
it's like corny, kind of, but like,
yeah,
they all have like very distinct personalities in their voices, right?
Yeah.
And I thought that, the voice acting was pretty good. Other than the weird like gibberish language in the beginning. I don't know if they named the language or not.
I don't know if it did have a name.
I'm just gonna call it gibberish. I'm gonna give it I gave it a 3.5 because some of the music was pretty cool too. None of it was very like memorable or like, whoa, this song's a fucking banger, but it all did its job. I think it was above average.
Yeah,
slightly.
Yeah, I actually landed on the same score. I'm at a 3.5 as well. I had it at 4, but I did knock it down a little bit because of the gibberishness of it. But
Gibberosity.
Yeah. I don't think I had like the voice acting as like being necessarily terrible. It was more just like it was a little annoying at the beginning, and it kind of goes away once Fox is introduced. Fox speaks, I don't want to say normal because it's not like English is the only functional language, but you know what I mean?
Of course it is.
I can understand it. So it's like, but it's real tough to follow along with the gibberish, and you got to try and read, and reading is tough for everybody.
No one wants to read when they're playing video games.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, that's Frankie. That's why you've strayed away from JRPGs, right?
That's right. That is 100% right. I don't want to have to read. I just want to do.
Makes sense.
Exactly. Yeah. So no, I gave it a 3.5. There are some. You do hear some familiar Star Fox tracks, and I know I said that I haven't really played Star Fox games, but I'm very familiar with Super Smash Bros. So I know a lot of the Star Fox songs from Smash Bros.
Have you guys done Smash in any capacity on your show?
No, not yet.
No.
Nope.
Not yet.
We might have to have you back on.
If and when you do Melee, Brawl, or Ultimate, because Wii U I didn't play as much, and the original I played, but not nearly as much either. So
yeah. I mean, when Melee comes back, man, so will you. So we'll have you back on.
Don't threaten me with a good time.
Yeah. So I gave sound a 3.5. Frank, what about you?
It seems like we're on different ends of the spectrum here, boys. I actually felt that the sound was one of the weaker parts of the game.
Oh, really?
I gave it a 2 out of 5. I keep saying point. A 2 out of 5.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that when you're first playing the game and you see it, and you're kind of like it mends well with the visuals, with the gameplay, but it becomes very repetitive, very fast. I know I spoke about it previously in particular, but Prince Tricky is one of the most annoying side characters in any game, and
yeah,
the voice acting for me, it kind of crossed the boundary of kind of cheesy fun, where it seemed like every line was recorded individually and not as part of like a holistic experience,
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah, I could
where
see that.
it was just like, all right, I just got to say this line just like in my head. They didn't think about character. And again, you know, probably you're asking for a lot for a 2002 game. I know voice acting is a lot more serious now than it was back then,
Oh yeah.
but some of it is cool. Some of it is funny, but then there are certain ones that you hear again and again and again that drive me nuts. And I don't know if in the amount of time that you guys played, if you came across like the shopkeeper, but boy, oh boy,
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, the shopkeeper is annoying.
I wanted to pull my hair out every, you know, and it's like the most typical, like, where are you going? You know,
That
like,
was pretty good, man.
thank you. It drove me a little bit nuts. And same goes for, you know, when it comes to the combat and the shooting of the, you know, whether it be like your fireball or stuff like that. I just felt it was a little repetitive, a lack of variety in terms of overall feel with the sound from the game.
Mhm.
So I gave it a 2 out of 5.
Yeah, and I
Right.
mean, I do think another good point is like, I guess just a lot of like the sound effects are kind of just sound like stock reused sound effects every
Yes.
single yeah. So I mean that is another point. However, stuff like that for some reason doesn't factor in as much for me when I consider sound. I usually consider music, and if there's voice acting, how good's the voice acting? Those are, and the music I actually thought wasn't that bad. But again, to
Mhm.
your point, Frank, I guess if I played longer of it, maybe it'd become repetitive.
Well, it's so tough because Nintendo is so consistently good with their music, and
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
think the music in this game is particularly bad, but at the same time, it's also not particularly memorable.
Mhm.
You
Right.
know, like I can name one Star Fox song, and it's like the titular song. You
It,
know, I didn't.
Pornaria.
There was nothing about the game or any of the areas that I walked away like, oh yeah, that was a bop.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, some of our best, like, of games that we've played so far, some of our favorite games as far as like soundtrack go are the Donkey Kong
Oh,
Country uh
Mm,
series. Castlevania is up
okay.
there with like some of the best. Link to the Past, some
Hmm.
really good soundtracks. What else do we have
Super
here?
Mario Bros.
Yeah, Super
Obviously.
Mario Bros. You know, Super
I mean,
Mario
look.
Bros. 2 is one of those where, in my opinion, I didn't give it a 5 where everybody else on the show did. And the only reason why I didn't give it a 5 is because to me, it's not, those aren't songs I would put on like a video game playlist that I have, but it's also like you play the original like level 1 to anybody. They don't even have to know, like have like I guess have experience playing video games, but they could tell you that that's the Mario theme.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's what's crazy about that, I guess. But
And look at all Nintendo games that you named, pretty much. So,
yeah,
Yeah. That's
I
a
mean,
good point.
Koji Kondo like basically wrote our childhood.
guy's a genius, and Rare deserves a lot of credit as well. I hope I'm not, you know, downplaying, because if you look at hit after hit after hit that they had in the mid to late '90s for Nintendo, the
Mhm.
music on those games are out of this world. My if not my number one, in my top 5 of all time is Banjo Kazooie,
So
and
good.
Nice.
I can, you know, the music from Grant Kirkhope on that game in particular is legitimately like, if I could get it tattooed on me, I would.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
We
it's
actually played that one too, and we gave that one really high scores for
Oh my
sound.
god, it's so good.
Are you a big fan of Banjo Tooie as well?
No, I
That's easy.
actually hadn't played it really a lot as a kid. I
Mhm.
played it more on Rare Replay on my Xbox,
Yeah,
and
that's
I
cool.
just felt like there was something about it. It was just lacking the charm that the first one had.
Right.
But
Almost
you
seems
know,
like it would have been better. Like that's one of those games that didn't need a sequel. Like
well,
it would have been
nothing,
just been
no,
fine.
yeah, no, we have to keep, you know, just kind of churning out and throwing up and regurgitating sequel
Mhm.
after sequel to make more money. But
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I'd love to see a revival of Banjo Kazooie by like the guys that made, you know, uh,
Ukulele.
s- well, not just ukulele, but like Toys for Bob, how they did the revival of you know, the Spyro games and
Oh
Crash
yeah.
games.
Yep.
I think that would be awesome with modern graphics.
They did such a good job on those too. I own both of them for the Switch,
Mhm.
and I actually like fully completed. I don't know what it was like. I think it's like 120% or something like that on Spyro, And I had such a good time going through that one because I'd never played that one as a kid. So I was so happy to finally go through that. Actually, one of my favorite levels in Spyro, just a bit of a tangent, but one of my favorite levels in that Spyro game is when you have to fly around and collect all the things without like falling, without like falling into the ground or whatever. And you have to do it in like the time limit. And everybody I've talked to are always like, those are the worst levels. I don't know why you like those ones. And I'm like, no, I don't know. I love those ones compared to the ones where you just run around and collect all the, just collect everything that you're supposed to collect.
I'm with you on that.
But anyway, let's get back to Star Fox. Yaiser, how do you believe this game aged?
I give it 3.5.
Okay.
I feel like it felt smooth. I mean, as smooth as it could have ran possibly on my phone, but
Right.
it felt good. And I guess the only thing would be the camera, but it did have the auto center feature, which is nice. But I kept finding myself trying to move
the camera with
what
the
would
C
be
stick.
the C stick.
Yeah, I kept doing that too.
I kept trying to fucking do that, and it didn't.
That's
work.
the modern gamer in you, though.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I gave aged a. Oh, sorry. Were you done?
Yeah.
Okay. I just interrupting.
Sure. Yeah, sure.
I'll just say what I said.
Yeah,
now.
go ahead.
No, I gave aged a 2.5, which I think seems probably a little too harsh. I think the thing that ages this game so poorly, I think, is just the Star Fox name on it, because it's not really a Star Fox game, right? Like, I think Rare had a really good game going here, and then it seemed like to me Nintendo was basically like, you know what? Let's just do Star Fox on whatever you were just working on, and let's fit as many Star Fox characters and references in that kind of make sense. And I feel like if this game just came out as Dinosaur Planet, it would probably be considered like, you know, a hidden gem or whatever on the GameCube, like, and people would look back at it as one of the better, like, more fun GameCube games.
Yeah.
But now you're looking at it kind of in the scope of what is a Star Fox game, and it's not necessarily this, right? So it's not a Star Fox game. Kind of plays like a Zelda game, but isn't a Zelda game. So it's like, if you want to play a Zelda game, play a Zelda game. If you want to play a Star Fox game, play Star Fox 64.
Yeah.
So I think it kind of falls in a weird place because of the unfortunate Nintendo just slapping their own IP on it and being like, you know, sorry, Rare, but it's a Star Fox game now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I guess they cared more about money than a decent game for their console.
Yeah. Well, Nintendo always kind of had their hand in the cookie jar for it. Like, they've always been very, very strict on anybody that creates games for their own consoles. Yeah. So I think that probably had a lot to do with it. But Frank, what'd you give aged?
Yeah, Rick, it seems like you and I are pretty much, you know, right there in step with each other. I gave it a 2.5 as well. And it hurt me to give it that score because I really love this game. And I not only love this game because of the nostalgia factor, but I do think that this game has it's a little bit of a hidden gem. But the only reason that I don't feel like it is aged particularly well is because of what you said in relation to Legend of Zelda. This is a Legend of Zelda game with a mask on, and it is a Star Fox mask, and it is a Dinosaur Planet mask. And you know, like I said, Rare was really riding the highs of so many games at that point in time. But when you look back at, you know, kind of the natural comparisons made between Banjo-Kazooie and Super Mario 64, arguably the reason that Banjo-Kazooie has lasted is because arguably Banjo-Kazooie is a better platformer. Arguably.
I mean, I agree with it.
You know, but what the only reason here that I don't think that this game is aged nearly as well as it could have is because if you're going to draw that natural comparison to a Legend of Zelda game, it is not better than an open world action adventure Legend of Zelda game. And that sucks because that shouldn't be what brings it down. True. It really should have, you know, kind of propelled, you know, Dinosaur Planet and Rare continuously. I mean, guys, this was also the last Rare console game that they did for Nintendo before the purchase by Microsoft. So,
and then Rare just completely goes down the shitter at that point,
and then starts making, you know, like Connect games,
Connect Sports or whatever they did.
Yeah,
right? So that's rough.
I do think that, you know, although I gave it a 2.5, it's still like, that doesn't mean it's an average game, but I think that as we have the benefit of hindsight of 20 years of games that have done this and done it better, there's no reason to go back and play it outside of being interested in the IP and being interested in the time.
It's weird because obviously, like, you and I completely agree with the fact that it hasn't aged well. But I almost kind of encourage, like, Star Fox fans, if you're out there and you haven't played this game because you think it's not a Star Fox game, you should still play the game because it's a good game. Just ignore the fact that it's Star Fox. At least try to ignore the Star Fox factor to it, because the game on the surface level is a good game. It's just it ages so poorly because it has the Star Fox marketing and is played like a Zelda game, and it's just going to always be compared to other Star Fox games and other Zelda games.
I guess so. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, and the reality.
But I mean,
sorry, go ahead.
But Yaiser, I mean, you haven't really, like, you've played very few Zelda games. You played Link to the Past.
I played Link to the Past. I played Ocarina and I've played Majora's Mask. Not all the way through on either one of them, but I've played those games.
Oh, okay.
And like action adventure, I'd much rather play a mediocre action adventure game than a awesome rail shooter game, in my opinion. That's just me.
And you also don't really like platformers, so like action adventure. He hates the Donkey
Watch
Kong.
my Donkey Kong playthrough. I'm so bad at it. It sucks.
Oh man, I love those games so much.
Dude, Donkey Kong's so good.
Bad at it. But yeah, like, so I think this game aged well for me because this is like my type of game. It's like playing. It's like if you've already played all the Zeldas and you want to play a game similar to that with a different like skin over the top of it, fucking go ahead, go back and play this game. It's not a bad game.
I think, you know, what really makes, you know, this game stand out to me, and what I would recommend for people, you know, if they wanted to play or they were at least interested, is, you know, the Nintendo 64 was such a leap forward for Nintendo in terms of what they wanted to do with their characters, with their IPs. And when we, you know, referencing the big ones, you know, the Star Fox series, Mario, although there wasn't a Metroid game on the Nintendo 64, you know, I would consider that Donkey Kong, that's their bread and butter there. The GameCube, it seemed like they really were trying to experiment a little bit more to kind of shape the future. And a lot of what these franchises are now were shaped by the GameCube. I mean, Star Fox is, for lack of better terms, in the shits right now because they don't know what to do with it because they haven't known what to do with Star Fox for 20 years now.
Yeah, and it's like they kind of can't bring it back to just being an on-rail shooter, right? Because those games are beaten in like 2 hours. Right. So like, is it going to be justifiable for Nintendo in 2022 or 2023 to release a 2-hour Star Fox game that can be, you know what I mean, that it's going to be $60 to purchase? You know, they're going to get destroyed for that.
Yeah, and since you know, Fox and Falco being in Smash Bros, you're going to want to, if you get a new Star Fox game, you're going to want to fight.
Kind of
you're
combat
You're going to want to have your gun and shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
well, and then also, you know, what would be the point of them making a sequel to this game, or at least something in the same vein as this game, when they can spend the time, resources on the exact style, slap a sword and shield on it, and call it Legend of Zelda, and it'll sell 3 times the amount that this game would. You know,
yeah, that's true.
That's a huge point.
I think that it's a really, like, it was such a special time, not only for me personally, but for the video game industry, because this was the first time we had, you know, a 3 console war, quote unquote. Yeah. And we were really, well, I guess if you consider the Sega stuff during the N64, but they kind of died, you know, pretty badly. But
they were kind of done by that point.
You know, like this, it really, I think, it tells a story of what the industry was at that point in time, where Nintendo was like, we need to innovate and we need to throw everything against the wall and see what sticks. And this game isn't bad. It's worth finishing, but it's also kind of like the little brother of the Nintendo games of that generation.
Yeah, I think that's definitely fair. That being said, you would recommend that somebody plays it? if they've never played it before, or do you think it's not worth their time necessarily?
I would recommend it. I don't recommend people pirating things or emulating because I guess that is a form of stealing in some capacity. But I also don't know if I would tell people to go out and buy
That's the thing, yeah.
a copy of it.
Because you also have to buy a GameCube.
Exactly. This is like it's like a $200 investment to play this game. I mean, GameCube is great games. So I don't want to say emulate it, but maybe do that if you're really, really interested, because it's worth taking a look at, in my opinion, but it hasn't aged well.
I think they should do more things like, even like they have the Cowabunga collection, right? For the Switch. They have this. Why don't they do stuff like that with Star Fox? Why don't they like have like a big collection like that, and they can put it out on their console and resell those games? And even with like the Donkey Kong stuff, I know that they have like the SNES like on the Switch, right? And then they have like the N64 kind of, but they should just have like a game where they put a bunch of those together. I mean, they have like the Super Mario 3D All Stars where they have 64 and Sunshine and Galaxy, but I don't know. I think they should definitely do some stuff like that so people can more easily go back and play these games. I think I recommend it. I think I would say go back and give it a shot. Like I said, you kind of have to forget that it's a Star Fox game, that it's supposed to be a Star Fox game, because if you go in with that mentality, you're going to be a little disappointed that you're not in the R-Wing shooting things all the time, if that's the kind of Star Fox game that you like. But yeah, I mean, I agree with Frank. I think it's worth going back and playing. Yaiser?
Yeah, I'm with you guys for sure.
Yeah,
play it. Why not?
All right, so let's randomize what we are going to play next week. I'm glad Frank caught on how effing long that thing spins for.
I love that. I love the sound effect.
It goes so long. All right. So Frank, like I was telling you, we do this thing where I vaguely describe the game and I want to see if the guest can guess what the game is. So here we go. This game was developed by Team Little Devils, published by Capcom, was released for the PS2 in 2001, and is an action-adventure hack and slash.
Oof.
Little Devils.
Little Devils.
I don't know what that is.
That's a little tough. I the only thing that I can think of, Capcom, Little Devils, 2002, PS2. Is it Devil May Cry?
Nailed it, buddy. Devil May Cry. Have you ever played the game before, Yaiser?
No, but I remember what the cover looks like.
That's what
yeah. Seen it a bunch of times in Blockbuster.
Yes, sir. Yeah, so we're going to be playing that one next week. I'm pretty excited for that one. I haven't played that game in quite a long time.
There you go.
Just a quick recap, because I forgot to do this before. But Star Fox Adventures, our overall scores, Yaiser was the highest on it at a 3.5. Wow. I was second at a 3.2, and Frank was the lowest at a 2.9 overall. So as a team, 3.2. Pretty solid score for a game that is universally disliked from the Star Fox fanboys, I guess. So I didn't think there was really anything wrong with it.
They don't have a lot. They don't have a lot to be happy about. So.
Yeah. They really don't, right? They crap on anything after the 64. So
basically, yeah.
Fuck those guys.
Did you ever play Star Fox Assault?
No.
Interesting.
No,
I haven't either. But I've heard it's not too bad. But I kind of want to get into it at some point. All right. Frank, thank you so much for coming on, man. I really, really appreciate it. If you want to tell the people one last time where they can find you.
Well, thank you guys for having me. I do really appreciate it. I love talking video games and all things retro. So thank you again. And you guys can find me on Twitter at falvarez8085, and then everywhere else at the Frank Alvarez, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. All the fun places. So yeah, go check it out. And then make sure you check out the Basement Yard podcast. My buddy Joe and I host a comedy podcast every Mondays. It goes live on YouTube. We were just on the Today Show. Well, not us physically, but the show. They played a clip. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, go check it out on all socials, and make sure you check out Santa Gato Studios as well. The Basement Yard podcast, Santa Gato Studios. Everything we do is real fun over there.
It is. I've been a fan for a long time, so I definitely recommend you guys go check out everything Frank's got going on. Do you also still do the Schmodown?
The Schmodown is ended, actually.
Oh, it's all over with, huh?
Schmodown's all over with. I did the one season. I loved every second of it. It's competitive movie trivia. All the videos are still there on YouTube. If you guys love movies and love talking movies, go check it out. It's fucking incredible.
Awesome. And also I'm a stupid idiot. I forgot to ask you what your recommendation is for our master list.
Oh yeah,
boys.
What you got
Growing
for
up,
us?
one of my favorite memories is my family. We had a little cabin on a lake, and it was a little community. So I grew up with, my two younger brothers, my two, and then three other friends. There were six of us, and there was one game that we played, probably that no one really has ever heard of before, or very few people have heard of. Now, listen, we stayed up late playing, Maddens and MLBs and Super Smash Brothers and Monkey Balls of the world. But a game that we played that very few people know and appreciate for the Super Nintendo, and it's called Tiny Toons Wacky Sports Challenge.
Okay.
Oh shit.
And guys, it is so fun. It is incredible. It is so obscure that most people that I have met don't even know that it exists. So I cannot recommend it enough.
I think I remember playing it a little bit when I was a kid, but I know for sure.
I remember it too.
I know for sure I played Looney Tunes basketball for the SNES.
Hold on one second. It might be behind me. Mind me standing up.
Go get it, buddy.
I thought you were gonna have no pants on or something when you said that.
Here we go.
Oh, boxed and everything.
Oh shit.
It is so so much fun. And it is a 2-player game. And listen, if I can get you guys to play something together, maybe draw a little competitive fun out of you two.
We've been wanting to play some co-op games.
Yeah, we literally were just talking about that.
It's so fun, guys. I can't recommend it enough.
That's awesome. All right.
And if you end up hating it, don't I don't want to hear from you.
Yeah, no, I won't tell you if I hit it.
I'll tell you.
Yaiser's a jerk like that. No, thank you so much, Frank, for coming on. Really, really appreciate it. Everybody go check out everything Frank is in. Go check him out on Twitter, on Instagram, TikTok, Basement Yard, Sanagato Studios, all that good stuff. All right. And you will see us next week to play our Patreon game, Devil May Cry. Pretty pumped about it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Patreon game.
All right. See you guys next week.
Peace.
Now's the time to. You have to go potty, buddy?
Yeah.
Why don't you go potty?
Thanks.
Take a break. He's doing the potty dance. My daughter does it.
I love how you released him. Like go, bud. Go ahead, buddy.
Yeah.
He's like, okay. You saw the pain in his eyes.
Yeah.